Hey everybody, we got our first look at the Berserker Elite specialization for the Warrior, and it looks like it's going to be enabling either a tanky or a condition damage playstyle from the description. As you might expect from a class getting the torch, burning will play a big part in the spec, and if recent history is any guide, a class with lots of burning and bleeding has the potential to have very high PvE DPS. The basic Warrior already has bleeding pretty well covered, so if the Berserker trait line brings good burn damage, we could have exactly what we need. So what would it take for the Condi Berserker build potentially to be the meta? We don't have all the details until the live stream on Friday, so for now the best thing to do is make a checklist of the things we need the Berserker to have in order for it to become a rival to the current DPS Warrior build. So the very first thing, at the most basic level, it needs is good DPS. The PS meta build currently makes about 13k damage in fully buffed groups, and that's with Dumpling Food and Strength Runes. The current best Condi Warrior build in a fully buffed group makes about 10k DPS, and it has a long ramp-up time, which is to say it's completely useless. The Berserker would have to add some significant burning damage to get where we need to be, but it's possible. To counter the ramp-up time, it's likely that the Berserker would have to hit around 15 to 17k DPS to be competitive with the Phalanx Strength direct damage build. That would require a lot of burning, but it isn't unrealistic, actually. If you consider a Sword, Torch, plus Longbow build, you could probably stack quite a bit of burning if the Torch is anything like the Ranger Torch. So what's the second thing that the Berserker needs? It needs to be able to generate about 2 might per second without the Strength Sigil or might on crit food. This is kind of a big one. In PvE, in groups, it's out of the question not to use Phalanx Strength and the whole tactics line in general, because Empower Allies and Phalanx Strength are so insanely integral to the meta. Giving Elementalists the ability to run staff and not have to worry about stacking might for the team is what makes the current meta tick, and that requires Phalanx Strength. Basically, the build needs a way to generate might to power Phalanx Strength without a Greatsword, Strength Sigil on the weapons, or Dumplings. Can this happen? It could. There could be all kinds of traits that we don't know about yet, traits that say stuff like every time you inflict burning, you generate a stack of you get a stack of might, or any. It's just something like that. Just any kind of synergy that would make a constant decent amount of might. 2 per second is the top end. That's pretty much what the current Berserker direct damage build makes. I think groups could probably get by if it was even like 1 1/4 might per second. That would probably be sufficient for a Condi build to pump out the DPS it needs. Especially if you consider that the Condi build would get to use Aristocracy runes to help facilitate that. The third thing is that the build needs to be able to function optimally without utility skills being locked down. Because banners are such a must in PvE gameplay, you really only have room for 1 utility skill in the Warrior. There could be a situation where the Condi Berserker has really good DPS, really good DPS, but it requires 2 or more rage skills, or 3 rage skills even, to make it functional. Well, unfortunately, that means you can't take banners. And if you can't take banners, it's just not really negotiable. People will just not bring a warrior if he's not going to bring banners. So it really needs to be able to function with only 1 rage skill or no rage skills, ideally. And then the last thing is the build needs to be able to function without fast hands. If Berserker arms and tactics are a given for group dungeon play, that doesn't really leave room for discipline and fast hands. That means the build has to function with normal weapon swap cooldowns, which means Longbow as a weapon is probably not viable whatsoever. That's not a problem if it works out to be that the meta build is sword, torch, and it'll all come down to the cooldowns on the torch skills. If the torch skills have really long cooldowns, then they can be used, and you can swap to sword for impale, and you don't have to worry about missing cooldowns. If the torch skills have really low cooldowns, and they have to be spammed frequently for the build to be effective, and then it will kind of require you to camp torch, and then you won't get to use the impale for the sword, and you'll potentially be losing the torment DPS. And if the build requires discipline and fast hands to function at all, then it's probably a no-go for PvE group play. So, with those 4 factors in mind, what do we think? What do I think will happen? Just speculating wildly here, but I don't think that these 4 things are going to happen. Since every single one of these things has to happen in order for it to rival the meta build, even if only 3 of these things happen and 1 doesn't, it will completely shoot it down. So the chance of all 4 of these things happening is a really long shot, and if I had to guess, I would say the Berserker will not be meta for group play in PvE. However, it could be meta for solos and duo content. In those type of scenarios, tactics and empower allies and phalanx strength isn't needed as much, and discipline can come back into the picture, and it's likely that that would be able to help the personal DPS enough to make it above average. It all comes down to what the torch skills do, what the traits do, and what the utility skills do, and we will find out a lot more about this on Friday, and I will follow up once we hear something. Thanks for watching, guys.